Hey y'all, welcome to my Windwalker PVE guide. My name is Khrezin, also known as Zadian in World of Warcraft in the Move. And this is going to be, like I said, this is going to be a Windwalker PVE guide. And this should cover everything that you need to know about playing a Windwalker in Mythic Plus and Raids. So the first thing we'll go over is your stat priority. So versatility and mastery, regardless of either you're playing Windwalker or Mistweaver, is actually your stat priority. You want to have as much versatility and mastery as you can possibly have. Every gear that you have, every piece of gear that you have should be actually versatility mastery if at all possible. There are a few pieces that I'm still working on replacing. Some have versatility and haste. That's usually the gear that I've got that does not have versatility and mastery. But that's exactly what your stat prio is. So you just want, like I said, you just want to get as much of it as possible. You want to gem for it, you want to enchant for it, and all that good stuff. So for your gear priority, you want to make sure, like I said, that everything has versatility and mastery on it. When you're doing PVE, usually mastery is weighed a little bit higher than versatility because it balances your hit combo very well, which is actually your, let's see, where is the passive? Combo strikes. So, like I said, that balances with your hit combo. So you deal more damage if the ability that you press is not a repeat of the ability that you press before. So you don't want to use Tiger Palm twice in a row. You don't want to use Blackout Kick twice in a row. You want to rotate through your abilities. And a talent that we'll get to in a minute is actually called Hit Combo. And that will also, when you have non-repeat abilities, increase your damage. And overall, you'll be doing up to about 40% bonus damage with every ability that you use once you get up to 6 unique abilities in a row. So you want to keep that up. We'll get to that. So the next thing we'll go over are essences. So the essences that you want are mainly Conflict and Strife Major is really just kind of the overall best power that you can have because it just increases your versatility outright, and versatility increases your damage and reduces your damage taken. So having constantly just a straight damage boost is very, very nice. And when you dispel, interrupt, or put a loss of control, like a leg sweep or an in-cap or something, it increases your versatility further. It doubles the amount that you get for 5 seconds. So that's really nice. So other than that, for your minor essences, Breath of the Dying is always a strong choice because it's just straight up extra damage that goes out all the time. You get your Essence of the Focusing Iris, which is constant haste, which is, just, it's good because your Fist of Fury is also based on your haste with how fast the cast time is. Well, not that it has a cast time, the channel time, sorry. And then World Vein Resonance is just going to give you agility just constantly throughout the fight, and your agility is going to just obviously increase your attack power, and it's going to make you do a lot more damage. So now the next thing we'll go over are traits. So the best trait that you can possibly have is Open Palm Strikes. You're going to want as many of these as possible because they have a 5% chance on your Fist of Fury to refund 1 chi and deal 5,000 bonus damage, and these stack. So refunding chi is very important because most of your abilities will cost chi instead of energy. The only abilities that you have that actually cost energy are Tiger's Palm and Reverse Harm if you're running that. So it will help you at the end of your Fist of Fury or your Burst combo to have more chi that got refunded during your Fist of Fury to end it off with a Blackout Kick or a Rising Sun Kick, and that will just boost your damage outright. Fury of Zen is another really good trait. It increases your combo strikes by 1% for your next Fist of Fury to grant 1,631 haste and invoke Zen the White Tiger. So when you deal damage with your abilities, I'll show you right here. You're going to see a stack coming up here. So your next Fist of Fury has a % chance for every ability that you use. It stacks up with every single ability to summon Zen the White Tiger. And he comes out and he actually does a lot of damage here. So I'll show you exactly what that looks like. So we just got to keep stacking this up a little bit. Just keep rotating through your abilities, not hitting the same ability twice. Okay, so we Fist of Fury there, and he didn't spawn, but that's okay. So we're just going to stack it up, because like I said, the more stacks that you have, the bigger chance it is that you'll summon Zen and just deal more damage. So now we're getting up there in stacks, so we should have a pretty good chance at getting a Zen proc here. We'll probably get it on the next one. Okay, no, we're gonna have to keep going just a little bit longer. It's all chance. There it is. So now he just comes out and he starts beating on your target. So that's actually a decently good chunk of your damage when it procs. So it's always nice to have that. And there is your World Vein Resonance giving you extra agility. So the next trait that I take in my my Stygian guys, which is actually like the best helm for both Mistweaver and Windwalker. So this one has Heed My Call, which is just a chance on your damaging abilities to call down a lightning strike that's just going to hit for an extra 10,000 damage and do an AoE 5,000 extra damage to any AoE target within 3 yards of your main target that you hit. So this is just straight up extra damage. It's always nice to have that. It's better than having life speed, which is haste and avoidance, because avoidance is pretty much a useless stat. And haste is not one of our stat priorities. It would probably be our third best stat, I would say. Blessed Portents is just not really an option for Windwalker. I mean, it's a healing trait. It's not very good. Yeah. So moving in, then you want an impassive Visage. Sweep the Leg is okay. It increases your movement speed and reduces the enemy target's movement speed by 50% after you use Leg Sweep. So they get the stun, and then you speed up and they slow down, so it gives you a little movement speed. But it's better to just have the impassive Visage, because when you take damage, you just heal for almost 11,000. And it cannot occur more than once every 6 seconds. So when it does proc every 6 seconds, that's a lot of healing that you're getting over time. And Windwalkers are fairly squishy because we're leather wearers. We don't have a lot of armor. We don't have a ton of defensive cooldowns. We've got Fortifying Brew, and we've got Karma and Diffuse Magic, and that's pretty much it. And Diffuse Magic is actually a talent, so it's not something that's baseline. And same with Fort Brew for Windwalker. And then obviously you want your Azerite Empowered, because it just increases your item level. So going into the shoulder pads, Glory of the Dawn is not a bad trait to have. Your Rising Sun Kick has a 25% chance to trigger a second time, dealing 26,729 physical damage and restoring 1 chi. So the reason that this is more useful is honestly because it restores the chi more than the damage that it does, because it's not like an overly large amount of damage that you're getting from it. But it's overall, it's not a bad trait. It's not your top trait, but it's fairly good. So like I said, you want to get as many open palm strikes as you can. So usually you'll get 1 on every piece of gear if you're lucky. And it's pretty good. Blood Siphon is usually a decent trait to take, because it just increases your mastery and your leech. So it means that you'll be healing a little bit based on the damage that you're dealing. And the mastery is actually increasing your damage, because your hit combo and your unique abilities is based on your mastery. So that will increase the percentage of damage that you're doing by using unique abilities after each other instead of spamming the same abilities. So that's why you don't want to spam Tiger Strike and Blackout Kick, or Tiger Palm, sorry. And then Resounding Protection is just overall pretty good for every situation. You won't really use Self-Reliance, because you're always going to be in melee range, while you're playing Windwalker. So having just an extra 30k shield is nice in Mythic Plus. It's nice in raids. It's nice in PvP. Moving on to the traits on my chest piece. So luckily I have all the traits that I really want. Sunrise Technique means that when you're attacking a target with Rising Sun Kick, it causes your damaging melee abilities to deal 1,270 additional physical damage to that target for 15 seconds. So it's really just nice to have extra damage going out all the time, and Sunrise Technique is really nice because Rising Sun Kick, which is the ability that it enhances, is actually one of your biggest damaging moves. it should actually account for most of your damage. Not like the majority. Your Fist of Fury is your top one usually. Blackout Kick comes second, and then your melee and Rising Sun Kick are doing the rest of your damage. Unless you get a whole bunch of procs, or if you're running Gushing Wounds, which I wouldn't really recommend running a whole lot of Gushing Wounds. We'll talk about Corruption a little bit later in the guide. Another Open Palm Strikes, so it's more chi refund chance and extra additional damage on your Fist of Fury. Elemental Whirl is really nice as a Windwalker monk because you're constantly getting additional secondary stats. So getting your critical strike, haste, mastery, or versatility, there really isn't anyone that's bad for Windwalker to get, but mastery and versatility are, like I said, your two best stats, and both of them can proc. So it's a 2 out of 4 chance, essentially, to get a stat that is going to benefit directly to your damage. And that's just really, really good. It's definitely better than getting life speed, so getting haste and avoidance. And it's definitely better than getting Savior, which is your heals on target below 50% have a chance to heal for an additional 11,000. That's just not really something that's good for Windwalker at all. Yeah. So Longstrider, most chess pieces will actually have Longstrider as their inner ring. And it's good to have because Windwalkers also have their passive ability, which is Windwalking, and increases your movement speed by 10%. So having a lot of extra percent movement speed is really nice. So you're just moving faster, you can stick to healers, and you're just doing more damage overall. So that should just about cover it for traits, I would say. There's not really a whole lot of other traits for Windwalker that are beneficial to your damage, beneficial to your survivability. It's mostly just those ones that you'd like. You want the as many Open Palm Strikes as you want, or as you can get. A Sunrise Technique is nice to get. Fury of Zen is also nice, but it doesn't really stack. You can't take multiple of them. And Glory of the Dawn is also a nice one to have. It also does not stack. So you can't actually get a 50% chance to trigger a second time. It doesn't work that way. But some of them are actually nerfed in PvP also. Alright, so the next part that we'll go over here is talents. So Eye of the Tiger is a pretty good option because you're just dealing straight up damage over time, because when you use your Tiger Palm, it applies a dot called Eye of the Tiger, and that's just dealing about 6,000 damage as a dot, and all the damage that it does, it heals back to you. So it's a nice trade-off because you're constantly keeping yourself healed up a little bit, and you have a dot that's dealing extra damage. However, Chi Wave is also a nice choice because it does bounce back and forth, and it deals damage to enemies and heals you. And it also bounces to allies, and it's a nice thing that it just kind of does damage and heals you. However, the main use of it is actually to keep up your hit combo, which we'll actually go over here real quick, just so you understand why we take Chi Wave. So each successive attack that triggers combo strikes in a row grants 1% increased damage, stacking up to 6 times. So working along with your mastery passive, which is combo strikes, so unique abilities, which are not a repeat, will deal more damage, because if you spam the same ability, you're losing damage as a Windwalker monk. It's all about rotating your abilities in and out. Chi Wave just gives you an extra ability to balance that hit combo and stack it up, and it's just overall my favorite choice. It's not the only choice. Like I said, Eye of the Tiger is still also pretty good. Not many people use Chi Burst. It's not very good as Windwalker. It's just not ideal unless you're doing like full AoE pulls. So it might be good if you're doing like freehold leveling, but that's a pretty specific scenario. But in that case, I also like to use Chi Wave because it gives me more healing, and it gives me a little bit more of a chance at managing my hit combo, because we lose reverse harm when we're doing that. So on the second row for Windwalker, Celerity really is not a great option. It gives you an extra charge on your roll and reduces the cooldown for your recharge by 5 seconds. So it makes it so you have 3 charges on a 15-second recharge cooldown. So rolling 3 times isn't really quite as good as either having Chi Torpedo or Tiger's Lust. Chi Torpedo is a better option for Mistweaver than it is for Windwalker. You'll oftentimes go a little bit further than you'd like to go as a Windwalker when you take Chi Torpedo. And it's usually best to just use Tiger's Lust because it's a 70% speed boost for 6 seconds. It costs no resource. It's just a 30-second cooldown, and it removes all roots and snares. So all slows, all roots, anything that's keeping you in place other than a stun, it will get you out of, and you can use it on friendly targets. So it's really nice to take for when you're doing Rathian on Mythic, for example. It's like a freedom. You can actually remove your stacks. When you're in, say, Freehold doing Mythic Plus or something like that, when you get rooted or something, you can actually just remove it. You can also remove it, like I said, on allies or the tank or something like that. So it's definitely just the ideal one to take. And Chi Torpedo is just, it's not very good in dungeons. Tiger's Lust just has a lot more utility. Ascension is usually the best talent that you can take on the third row because it increases the maximum chi that you have by 1 and your maximum energy and your energy regen by 10. So this just kind of allows you to do your normal combo and manage your chi in an efficient way because it allows you to use your Tiger's Palm. And if you're using reverse harm, which you gain from your conflict and strife major, then you have a lot of chi generation, and you want to make sure you keep your chi up as high as you can so you can actually dump it all into your Fists of Fury whenever that's off cooldown or you're going to get ready for your burst combo, and it allows you to get more Rising Sun kicks and Blackout kicks in. The only other option that I would really take in this row is Fist of the White Tiger. It costs 40 energy and generates 3 chi, which would be your highest chi generator because Tiger Palm and Reverse Harm both generate 2 chi. But it also takes 40 energy, and you're not gaining that extra energy back, or your max energy, which is set to 120 instead of 100. So it's overall, it's okay in raids, but I wouldn't really ever use it myself in raid and Mythic Plus. You know, it's not really the ideal option, I would say. And it's also not that great in PvP. This trait, I mean, this talent used to be a little bit better before, but Ascension is just better overall, in my opinion. Tiger Tail Sweep you probably will likely never use. It just increases the range of your leg sweep by 2 yards and reduces its cooldown by 10 seconds. Because of the way that stun DR works, you typically don't need to take that, and the extra 2 yards is not big enough that it makes a big enough difference. So reducing its cooldown and having the extra 2 yards is really not all that useful. There are much better options in this row. Good Karma is pretty good when you're going up against fights that are going to deal a lot of damage and you need a lot more healing. Usually this is not a great option in PvE, and it's typically better in PvP. Ring of Peace has a lot of uses. So, Ring of Peace, overall, you can move ads over when they start casting something. You can use it as an extra kick. You can actually move ads out of the way of pulling extra stuff in Mythic Plus. You can move the assassins on Rathian. There's a whole bunch of different uses for Ring of Peace. In PvE, PvP, whatever it is, there's always a ton of uses for it. One of my favorite uses for it is actually sitting at the entrance to the Nyalotha raid, and when people summon people and then walk up the bridge towards the dungeon, I just kind of knock them off the bridge into the water and just kind of troll them. Or if I'm sitting in a tree above the Duelers in Elwyn Forest, the Alliance, you can just Ring of Peace them when you're sitting on your Zen Flight cloud. So those are some fun uses for it, but it has some really good uses in PvE and PvP, like I said, for moving ads around in dungeons and raids, interrupting casts with it, and so on and so forth. It's overall, it's a pretty good option. Good Karma you'll take sometimes in PvP. Ring of Peace you should take almost 100% of the time. Inner Strength, which is each chi you spend reduces damage taken by 2% for 5 seconds, up to 5 times, is not really a great defensive option. Is taking reduced 10% damage is kind of like... It's okay, but there are much better options, which we'll go over in a second. It's not a big enough damage reduction, and you pretty much won't be taking a ton of damage when you're doing raids in Mythic Plus anyway. As long as your tank is doing what they're supposed to be doing, there aren't really many fights that force you to take a whole lot of damage. I mean, it might be good on like Motherlode, I guess, but like there's not a whole lot of applicable dungeons that do that. Diffuse Magic usually is the choice that you'd like to take. It does the most for any talent on this row. It reduces the magic damage you take by 60%, for 6 seconds and transfers all active harmful magical effects on you back to the original caster if possible. So, say you're playing against. Actually, we're doing PVE. So, if you're in a dungeon where a bunch of poisons are going out, and it's an extra dispel kind of, if you're taking a bunch of extra magic damage. So, say you're doing King's Rest and you're on Machimba, then you'll actually be able to remove any of the dots on you when he does his channel ability. That will reduce the amount of damage that you're taking from that. Yeah, it's just overall really good to have because it just wipes out all the magic damage dots that are on you and reduces the amount of magic damage that you're taking further. So it's overall, it's just usually the best talent in this row. Dampen Harm is okay. It's just a generic wall. Reduces all the damage you take by 20% to 50% for 10 seconds. With larger attacks being reduced by more. So you can take that if you're getting just dumpstered by some massive damage mechanic that you're not willing to dodge, which is not really the option because mostly Windwalker monks are very mobile, and you can dodge that stuff anyway. So it's usually just not the best option. Diffuse magic is taken about 95% of the time. The only other time that you would really take Dampen Harm, like I said, is if there's some massive mechanic that's really hitting you and you can't seem to get by it, then it can reduce the amount of damage that you take by 50%. And that can be pretty big, but it doesn't last very long. It lasts 10 seconds. So in this row, there's really only one good choice, and it's hit combo. So similar, like I said, to your mastery, hit combo takes each successive attack, so each unique ability that's not a repeat, and it increases your damage by 1%, stacking up to 6 times. So you're doing 6% extra damage, which on top of your mastery, which is already, like I said, I don't have a ton of mastery, but I'm at like 36%. So having actually 34%. So having 40% about extra damage is huge when you have a lot of gear. So you're really looking at doing like an extra at least like 20k DPS by taking that and adding that to your mastery. The reason that we take Chi Wave is actually to balance that. So I'll show you real quick here. This is typically how you balance your hit combo. So you can start off a fight with a Chi Wave, and that will generate your first hit combo. So this is your Chi Wave bouncing back and forth, dealing damage and healing. And then every unique ability, so you can start off with a Reverse Harm right after your Chi Wave, and then you can go right into your Tiger Palm, and then you're up to 4 Chi. So you're looking pretty good. You can go with a Rising Sun Kick to get some extra damage, get your procs going. And you just want to keep using unique abilities. If you need to just keep trading back and forth and you don't have your Fist of Fury or Rising Sun Kick or your Whirling Dragon Punch active, then you can actually just rotate back and forth between Tiger Palm and Blackout Kick. And you won't drop your hit combo. You just have to remember what ability you use last. And that you'll just deal extra damage. So on the last row of talents, there's also really only one good choice. Spiritual Focus. Every 2 Chi you spend reduces the cooldown of Storm, Earth, and Fire by 1 second. While you will be using a lot of Chi, reducing the cooldown of Storm, Earth, and Fire is not very important because you have 2 stacks already of it that you can use. It's got 2 charges on a 1.5 minute recharge. So you pretty much like always have that up because it lasts 15 seconds. And it's up most of the time, which is very, very good for when you're doing Mythic Plus and raids and stuff, but it doesn't really decrease the cooldown by too much while you're active fighting. It's not the best option. You're better off just getting the throughput of getting your Whirling Dragon Punch. So whenever your Fist of Fury and your Rising Sun Kick have gone on cooldown at the same time, it activates the ability to use Whirling Dragon Punch, which is just like you jump up, you do 42,000 damage to all nearby enemies. So you jump up and you just kick all around you, and it does a whole bunch of damage. It's really nice, good ability, well designed. Like I said, it gives you a bunch of throughput. The only thing that's kind of weird about it is that on certain fights in PvE, which is what we're talking about, it's really good for AoE DPS when you're chaining in with your Fist of Fury and your spinning crane kick. And it takes up no extra resource because it's a free resource. It only requires your Fist of Fury and your Rising Sun Kick to be on cooldown. So after you use both of those abilities, because usually you would use your Rising Sun Kick right after your Fist of Fury, then it gives you a free extra big bit of damage, and it will add to your combo. Also, like, it'll refresh your hit combo and just deal a whole bunch of damage. It's very nice to have. The only weird thing is on Rathian in Mythic, it counts as a movement ability. Same thing when you're doing your horrific visions. It will also count as a movement ability. So say you got scorched feet and you use that, it will actually, when you jump up to kick, it will throw you back. So you do have to be a little bit careful of that. And on, like I said, on Rathian, on Mythic, it will actually add stacks to your movement debuff. So you don't really want a whole lot of that going on. Serenity is really just not a good talent choice. It replaces your Storm, Earth, and Fire. It's a 1.5-minute cooldown. You enter an elevated state of mental and physical serenity for 12 seconds, and while in the state, you deal 20% increased damage and healing, and all chi consumers are free and cooldown 100% more quickly. It's really just overall not as good as just having the overall throughput of Whirling Dragon Punch. You'll just do more damage, which in PvE and PvP is the monk's whole purpose, is to stick to a target and just deal as much damage as possible. And it's also, like I said, it's a good AoE move. And we won't talk about PvP talents in this video because they're not going to be applicable to PvE, because when you're pretty much doing any PvE content, which is Mythic Plus and Raids, none of these will be active, and it's not really very important. So the next thing we got to talk about is rotation. So we started to talk about a little bit how you want to get started in your fight. So it's always good to make sure that you set your Transcendence location in somewhere that's going to be good for you. So typically, say you're doing Rathian. Like I said, there's a lot of good examples to use Rathian with. You can set it right in front of him. So say the boss is facing, over towards this way. You're standing on the side of the boss. You're DPSing a little bit. You're doing what you got to do. And all of a sudden, you get Incineration. You can just kind of jump out and then blow up your Incineration over here, and then just port back, and you're immediately able to start dealing damage to the boss again. So that's always really nice. It gives you a little bit more overall uptime on your damage target. So when you're starting out your combo, I'll let my hit combo fall off there. So say you're starting a fight, you get the pull timer coming down. We'll do a quick pull timer. Wait for the tank to pull, and on pull, 5, then you're going to want to start out 3, with your chi wave. 2, 1. This will get your hit combo rolling. It will always give you your first stack. And then while you're still running in, you can use a reverse harm to generate your extra chi. So you start the fight with 4 chi, and then you can rotate it right back into a Tiger Palm. So now you're at 3 stacks on your hit combo, and you're at full chi. So then you can rotate in with a Rising Sun Kick. You want to wait until you get to your max hit combo, which is 6, before you start going through your burst rotation. So then you can use your Touch of Death. Then I pop Blood Fury, use my Dress Trinket, use a Rising Sun Kick, and normally you'd want to Storm, Earth, and Fire at the start of all that before you start using your Touch of Death and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, it's all about rotating your abilities back and forth and maintaining your hit combo, because you're just dealing percentage extra damage, which is just huge. So when you pop your Storm, Earth, and Fire, the most important thing is they will actually spread out and deal damage across multiple targets that are active in your fight. You can also press it again, and they will only affect that target. So say I click it again over here, they will only attack this target from now on, and they just kind of mimic all of your abilities. So they'll do whatever you're doing. So if you go through to a Fist of Fury, then that's how you get essentially 4 Fists of Fury on somebody. You're dealing the most damage that you can possibly deal, and then you want to cap it off with a nice Rising Sun Kick, and that's, again, probably your second most damaging ability, because it just hits the hardest. So your rotation is essentially keeping up your hit combo, using your Chi Wave, using your Reverse Harm, switching back and forth and generating your Chi, and making sure you constantly have enough for your combos when the time comes. So by the time your Storm, Earth, and Fire comes back up and your Touch of Death, you should be ready for a whole nother burst rotation. See, my Dress Trinket is coming back up. We're keeping our hit combo alive, balancing it with Chi Wave, getting extra healing, getting extra damage. I'm just going to use Touch of Karma here so my eye actually doesn't damage me, which also will deal damage to the target enemy, because the eyeball will deal damage to me, and that will also reflect it. So our Storm Earth and Fire has come up. Our Touch of Death is not quite up yet, so we're just going to want to keep rotating through. So just keep constantly throwing in your Rising Sun Kick whenever you can. Keep in mind your Fist of Fury is a 20-second cooldown, which is much, much longer than your Rising Sun. So now that we've regenerated all of our Chi, we're back up to 6 stacks of hit combo. We never lost it. Then we pop Storm Earth and Fire. We're going to pop Touch of Death. We're going to pop Blood Fury, pop our Dress Trinket, Rising Sun Kick into Fist of Fury. And then we'll throw in a Whirling Dragon Punch right at the end. And all of that will cap off to hit for 500,000 damage on our Touch of Death. Because all the damage that you deal with your Touch of Death will actually combo in with all the abilities that you did while it was active. So it's overall just your most damaging ability, and your burst rotation is very reliant on that. Because monks are very bursty, our consistent damage is okay, but it's not necessarily the optimal or the best amongst most classes. We're mostly meant to just stick to a target and deal as much damage as we can in burst rotations. So yeah, once we have all of our cooldowns back up here, I'll show you the typical entrance for me into any fight, any boss fight. Because Trash, you're just going to kind of be rotating through your abilities and not really using a whole lot of Touch of Death. You probably won't be using your Dress Trinket a whole lot in Trash. You're mostly going to want to be cycling all of your damage with your Storm Earth and Fire, because Trash mobs usually come in packs, and you'll be able to actually get most of your damage off. Stuff's up. Alright, so your main burst combo when you start in on the boss, you're going to want to mainly go for opening up with the Chi Wave, like you said. And then into Reverse Harm, into your Tiger's Palm. And then you can rotate in your other abilities. You want to mainly get up to 6 stacks before you enter your combo, and you want to make sure you got max Chi. So then you Storm Earth and Fire, you'll Blood Fury, Touch of Death, use your Dress Trinket or whatever you got. Rising Sun Kick, Tiger's Palm to max out your Chi again. And then you use your Fist of Fury, and then Whirling Dragon Punch, and that will cap out all of your damage in the middle of your Touch of Death. So you'll deal the most damage at the start of the fight. And then it's all about kind of just keeping your hit combo up, constantly using your Fist of Fury. You can make sure you use a second Storm Earth and Fire stack right after your Touch of Death hits. And that's how you do the most damage in your fight. So typically in a Mythic Plus fight, I'll start off the fight by doing about 150, 160k DPS, and then it will slowly drop down, and I'll hover around 90,000 to 100,000 DPS, and that's overall pretty good. And the same thing will happen on raid bosses. And whenever you have your Touch of Death come up, along again with your Storm Earth and Fire, and say your Dress Trinket is usually just like a gear priority, and overall it's just pretty good. Then you just want to cycle it out. It's all about cycling your abilities and not hitting the same thing twice and dropping your hit combo off. But some fights will also require you to drop your hit combo. Say Rathian, when you get a run away from all of the fire that's coming up out of the ground, you got to get to the safe zone. You're not exactly going to be able to hit anything there. But while you're out of combat, you can actually keep your hit combo up. So say that's irrelevant because there's a target dummy there. But say I were to come down here. We'll go over to here where there's nothing really for me to hit. You can actually stack your hit combo out of combat before a fight. However, in instanced content such as raids, it will actually reset your hit combo on boss pull. So you can't really get your Chi stacked up or your hit combo stacked up before the pull. It's not really worth doing. It works in Mythic Plus, but not in raids. So you can actually start by using a Chi Wave and your Reverse Harm, and each of those will generate stacks of your hit combo. You can use your Flying Serpent Kick, and that will also generate. So once you get the initial one with your Chi Wave, then you can actually rotate through whatever abilities you want, as long as they're not in the same order, or as long as it's not the same ability twice in a repeat. So you're constantly just generating your hit combo and your Chi. The only thing you don't want to use a whole lot is your Spinning Crane Kick while you're trying to generate your Chi, because it costs Chi. So you don't want to do that. You can actually rotate back and forth just Chi Wave and Reverse Harm, because the cooldown is long enough that you won't drop your hit combo by the time it comes up. So you want to wait until the last second, and then you use a Chi Wave, and then you wait a little bit longer. You wait until it goes down here. So about 1 or 2 seconds left, then you can use your reverse harm, and you can actually just flip it back and forth and rotate, and you can keep your chi up, and you can keep your hit combo maxed up at 6. So you can just use those 2 abilities, and that will stack it all up. But like I said, if you're looking to stack it up a little bit faster, you actually do have other methods of doing that without being in combat. So if you need to stack it up very quickly, you can use your chi wave to get your first stack, reverse harm, flying serpent kick, and you can cancel it real quick. You can spin and crane kick, and like that, you're already up to 4 stacks. Your other abilities are already going to be coming up, like your reverse harm, because monks have a lot of short cooldowns. And voila, we're already up at 6. All right, so the last section of the PVE guide here is going to be your buffs. So the most useful ones that you can actually get is Mastery for PVE, which is the Abyssal Fried Rizzoli. So it gives you 93 Mastery, which is overall a pretty strong buff. It's definitely the best buff food that you can get. It's better than even getting agility food with a feast like that. It will give you overall more damage because of your passive. It's always nice to carry augment runes because they just give a generic 60 agility, which is going to increase your attack power. Your flask that you're going to take is the Flask of the Currents. There's a greater flask and there's a normal flask. The greater one gives 360 and the other one does not. It gives a lesser amount. I don't even remember how much it gives you. It's like 180 or something like that. It's definitely not as much. A little bit more expensive, but not really. And then you're going to want to use for a battle potion your superior battle potion of agility, sorry. And that's just going to increase your agility by 1215 for 25 seconds. So that's actually a lot of damage that you can get off that. So before you get in combat, it's what's called a pre-pot. So you can actually use your pre-pot here right before you pull, and that won't set your potions on a cooldown. So you can actually throw out all of your damage here at the start of the fight. And so we'll throw out our full combo here. And then by the time you can actually use your next combo, your battle potion will be up again. So you can actually use another stack of it to gain another 1215 agility for 25 seconds throughout most of the rest of the fight. In Mythic Plus, if you use your battle potions, then you'll be able to do a lot more damage on your 2 rotations, and the boss will usually die by the time you finish your second rotation. Unless it's tyrannical. If it's fortified, that's usually better. But like I said, it's very useful to just up your damage overall. It's a low cooldown if you want to use 2 potions. The potions can be a little bit more expensive, but overall it's not too bad. So that's going to cap off the Windwalker PvE guide. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. If you have any questions, feel free to hit up the live stream. I stream every day from 10 to 6 EST. And yeah.